quite a crowd today. Welcome, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about streamlining the Android app development process and some release best practices. Let's jump into it. Yeah, so a couple of words about me. I'm Tamás Bazsonyi, working as a solutions engineering tech lead at Bitrise. I started my career as a full stack engineer, then worked as a manual QA engineer. Also started to work on test automation, mainly with Selenium, Appium, and Robot Framework. After that, I moved over to the development side again, both on the Android and the iOS side of things. And for the past 6.5 years, I've been working at Bitrise as a support tech engineer and in the last 3 years as a solutions engineer. Let's talk about today's agenda. So we are going to talk about some of the biggest challenges that we are seeing in the market right now. We are going to look at the crawl, walk, run, fly process of improving your CI/CD setup, and we are going to talk about internal, external releases as well. Yeah. So just to give a quick overview, I really love this example of describing the improvements of a CI/CD solution. The crawl basically is simply automating your CI/CD solution. The walk phase is starting to improve it with parallelization. The run phase is implementing caching in there. And the fly phase is implementing a remote build cache solution or using alternative build systems. Yeah. So let's talk about the automated CI/CD part. What does that mean? Continuous integration is there to ensure that the code is always functioning, it is always in the correct state. This allows you to, continuously test the source code that you are developing, and continuous delivery is there to ensure that the code is always in a releasable state, so you are always able to deploy it to your testers. Yeah. Why does it make sense to have an automated CI/CD process? One and the most crucial part is happy customers. It allows you to create a better bug-free user experience. Sadly, we know that there isn't any kind of software that would be completely bug-free. And it allows you to push out new features much faster. Yeah. It also increases the developer productivity. Developers need to firefight much less. They need to apply less context switching, and they have basically more time that they can spend on coding itself. And the final point is the recovery from any kind of incidents. Here with the automation, you are able to push out the fixes for any kind of incidents much faster. So how would we do this? One, definitely the hardware side. On the iOS side, you need the macOS machines, and on the Android side, those can run on Mac or Linux machines as well. You need to set up the networking, rack space, power, so everything that data center comes with. The second part is having a consistent environment. So now that we have an automated CI/CD solution, we want to ensure that the results are always reproducible. So if there are any kind of issues, then we don't have to spend multiple hours debugging simply just what changed in the environment. We want to have an environment that is always the same in each and every execution. This is basically the virtualization layer that you can see there as well. And if you are using this, you always need to make sure that there is a well-defined process for creating the virtual machines and distributing these virtual machines between the different machines. Yeah, the next part is the build agent, ensuring that the build orchestration is happening correctly, setting up the different scripts and executions, different steps that are building the application itself. And another crucial part is the team itself that is managing the whole setup and ensuring that it always keeps working as well. Yeah. So how can we achieve an automated CI/CD solution? Having different stacks, different Xcode versions, Ubuntu machines set up, different firepower for these machines to ensure that you are able to execute the CPU and RAM-heavy tasks as well, and also any kind of network traffic. Basically, some kind of a workflow editor where you would be able to put together your different pipelines and ensure that they really do what you are looking for during the execution. And another way that quite a few CI/CD solutions function as well, basically having a configuration file of these different workflows and pipeline setups. Awesome. So we talked about the core of setting up an automated CI/CD solution. And the next thing is a quick question to each and every one of you here in the room. What do you think? What percentage of teams have a less than 10-minute build execution time? 29%. That's a really good tip. Anybody for 86.7? 55? No? 95? And 29.1, then everybody. Oh, wow, so many hands. Yeah? So, yeah, 29.1%. We did a bit of a survey at droidcon Berlin as well. You can see that 29.1% has less than 10-minute execution time. It's quite common, like 47%, where it's between 10 and 30 minutes. Usually, this is what we see at our customers as well, that those builds that are super optimized can dip even down under 10 minutes, but quite a few, or I would say the majority of the builds are between 10 and 30 minutes. And altogether, 23.8% is 30 minutes or longer. Yeah, but how can we get there? Let's talk about improving the different builds and why you would do that. As you are ramping up your code, the project itself is growing. It creates a larger and larger code base that takes longer to compile, longer to build, longer to run your tests. There are more dependencies, and the test coverage in an ideal case scenario is also increasing with the project as well. You need to increase the developer throughput, so it is a bigger team with higher cost of waiting. So if a single engineer is waiting, that is always cheaper than having 10 engineers wait for a single CI execution. And of course, in the current market, the competitors are always trying to take over the customers of each other. And the third part is basically just doing more with less. Again, with the current economic climate, being able to be more efficient is a must-have, and you still need to like ship more features to be able to stay competitive. All right, and let's dive into how you would be able to start optimizing your setup. Let's talk about parallelization. What is it? Basically, parallel jobs are tasks running on multiple executors concurrently, and they may or may not communicate with each other. What does this do? It helps you organize the entire CI/CD process. So if you are, for example, running your unit tests or running your UI tests on multiple different devices, you might want to look into parallelization to be able to run all the different devices at the same time on different machines and save on the execution time itself. And the third part is improving the wall clock time, so decreasing the wait time for the results of any kind of test execution or any kind of execution as much as possible. Yeah. Why does it make sense? It allows you to have faster PR feedback. You can parallelize the build tasks. You can do test sharding, as I mentioned previously. It makes debugging much easier. You can rerun flaky issues without rerunning the whole build process. It is basically faster and cheaper as well by not having to rerun everything. Just to bring an example, if you are running on multiple devices your UI tests and it only fails on, let's say, the Samsung S23 device, then you can rerun that single one instead of rerunning it on each and every device that you would be running your tests on. And the key takeaway here is basically having the same or quite similar usage costs while decreasing the wall clock time and pushing down the execution. And let's just look real quick at one of the examples that we have here. At the very first stage, we are just creating the testable artifacts for UI testing. And in the next stage, we are running on 3 different devices, a phone, a tablet, and a foldable device, all the different UI tests. So instead of executing this whole thing for 7 minutes, you can see at the top that it takes only 4 minutes to run the execution itself. Yeah, and let's move on to the run phase, dependency caching. What is dependency caching? Basically, you are using a key value cache that would allow you to store something with a specific key to differentiate it from any other dependencies or any other files that you are storing. And during each build, this cache is basically pulled down to the virtual machine that is executing the build and allows you to speed up the build process with it. What can you put in the cache itself? Definitely dependencies, but you can also include basically anything else, build tools, configuration cache, or anything else that you would need to reuse between the different executions. And let's move on to the second question about remote caching. Who thinks that in an ideal case, remote build cache could improve performance by 50%? 2, okay. Who thinks it can improve by 70%? Who thinks it can improve by 99%? No one. Who thinks it can improve by 95%? And you were the first. It is 95%. So as I mentioned, this is basically an ideal case scenario where no code change is really happening. So the build cache itself would be able to store majority of the task outputs. Yeah, what is a remote build cache? A remote cache is used by a team or developers, a team of developers, and or a CI system to basically share the build outputs. How does this look? In our case, for example, the developers are triggering builds on the CI. After that, if there are any kind of tasks within the build that are basically the same as during a previous execution, then the output is simply downloaded. If there are tasks that don't have an output for it, then that is generated during the execution. And basically the same thing can happen locally when you are running the build on your own machine as well. Yeah, why does it make sense to implement a remote caching solution? You can get exponentially faster build times. You can improve the consistency and reliability as well for large teams with the build cache. And of course, by decreasing the execution time, you can get improved developer happiness. What are some of the main bottlenecks that can come up? As using a remote build cache is mainly focusing on the network traffic, the speed is heavily linked to the latency of retrieving the cache artifacts. This goes for the geographic distance, the cache read speed, network protocol, and definitely there's another bottleneck, basically the implementation time itself. Yeah. How does, for example, Bitrise's solution help, or using basically a managed solution? If you are using a cache, build cache solution that is managed by the CI provider, these would be basically co-located. So the same data center is used for caching and building your project. Global CDN infrastructure would be required for any local executions further away from the build machines and the cache server. The network communication as well is managed solution, and as this is a fully managed option, basically the same security and other standards apply to caching solution as for the CI. Yeah, and just to show a quick example how the performance improvement looks, we did a couple of tests with the Amaze file manager, and we saw that the original build time was almost 29 minutes, and that dropped under 4 minutes. Yeah, and for improving caching itself, a build cache solution, you basically would need to look at the critical path, so the longest running tasks that are dependent on each other, and you would need to start to optimize these. Yeah, and I wanted to quickly just highlight a couple of possible issues that can happen during the build cache itself, like version code is changing and that is dependent on all the other tasks, and also dynamic environment variables. And to, yeah, app distribution as the final topic. Quick question, the final one. What percentage of teams have an automated release process? Who says 72.7%? Who says 61.8? 99? And 25? It's 72.7. Yeah, so 72.7% of the companies have an automated release process. And yeah, just a couple of issues that are happening quite frequently. Internal app distribution, store distribution, transparency, and customization. And some of the possible options to mitigate these challenges are definitely like an install page to install artifacts, the what to test sections, managing the metadata, notifications on different messages, release manager role, and integration with other tools. And that's it. Thank you so much for attending. If you would have any questions, we have a booth downstairs, so feel free to drop by and let's discuss CI/CD. Thank you so much.
Thank you.